up dive. Feel the vibe, get ready to ignite. Untold stories in the airways, flying through the night. Experience voices, tales so bold. Streaming live, the truth unfolds. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's so I remember right. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can't hide. Aliens in the attic, UFOs in the sky. Cryptids lurking, oh my, oh my. Ghosts in the hallway, whispering your name. The paranormal, the unexplained. Become a VIP, get the inside scoop. Unlock the mysteries, be part of the group. Live streaming stories, they're talking to you. Super chats buzzing, join the crew. Untold Radio Network, where secrets come alive. New episodes daily, the mysteries thrive. Great guests, super chat, it's a wild member ride. Share and subscribe, join the side where truth can hide. So if you've got the guts and you want to explore, tune into the untold, it's what you're looking for. From aliens to ghosts and all that's unseen. Untold Radio Network, where the world's mysteries convene.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Spectrum. I'm your host, Barnaby Jones, and today we have a great guest. He is a filmmaker, a documentary filmmaker, a paranormal investigator, an author, and so much more. He'll be joining us in just a minute. But first, guys, if you want to come out and see all the stuff that the CAPS team has been working on, we are going to be live out in Johnstown, Pennsylvania at Squonkapalooza on August 10th. This is our next event coming up. It's going to be a good show. Ron Murphy, Daniel Benoit, Cryptids of the Corn, Eerie Travels Podcast, Bizarre Encounters, and Hillary Wilson will all be there as well. We are bringing out the Haydn Adventure exhibit, so that's going to be on display for anyone that did not get to see that at its debut. We are going to have that out there. And then, guys, we are headed down to Lexington, Kentucky for CryptidCon in November. And we have some library stuff coming up. Next week, I'll be in Reedsburg, Wisconsin, and Augustus, Wisconsin coming up. So if you guys are in the area, come on out and check that out. As far as the Untold Radio Network, if you want to show your support, here's how.
Hey, Untold Radio Network fans. Want exclusive perks and to support our channel? Introducing our YouTube membership program with 3 amazing levels. Get loyalty badges that level up to different cryptids the longer you're a supporter. How cool is that? You'll also get access to custom Bigfoot emojis and priority in chat. Upgrade to Backstage Pass for exclusive wallpapers, photos, status updates, discounted books, and merchandise. Go all in with the producer level for everything mentioned plus member shoutouts. Ready for an enhanced experience? Join now, pick your membership level, and let's make this journey even more exciting together.
All right, guys. Today, my guest is Larry Eissler III. He is seen on the 44th Annual Telly Award-winning series Expedition Entity from PARAFLIXX Paranormal Network. Larry is an author, filmmaker, and historian who focuses on lesser-known haunted locations in America's Midwest. His current research project focuses on the Black Hawk War of 1832, where he has published his findings in a book, Ghosts of the Black Hawk War. Larry is also the co-author of a fictional book, Afterlife Anthology, which he wrote alongside Dan Norvell and published through Haunted Road Media. Afterlife Anthology is a collection of paranormal short stories where the story is told from the ghost's perspective. These are loosely based on Dan and Larry's paranormal investigations and real-life circumstances. And he's got a brand new book out as well. And so here to tell you all about it, please welcome Larry Eissler. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
Not too bad. I have to say, out of a lot of the podcasts that I've been on the last couple of months, that is one catchy introduction. Like I'm off stage in the green room, just like
the Untold Radio one.
Yeah, that was good. That was really good.
It gets stuck in your head. I tell you.
I can see that. I can see that.
Oh yes. Oh man. So welcome to the show. You have a lot to talk about. I mean, you're an author and a paranormal researcher, and Expedition Entity. Where would you like to begin? Where did you get started in all this?
So I want to ask you a question to begin with. And
Sure.
This is actually something I talked about with a friend of mine last night. We were leaving a documentary set, and we left at like 1 a.m. ish. So you got to talk to keep yourself awake, right?
Mhm.
And we were talking about the difference between a paranormal investigator and a paranormal researcher. And to me, for the most part, they're kind of interchangeable. Technically speaking, I was talking with Neil Gibbons. I don't know if you know who Neil is.
I do. Yes.
Okay. So Neil has a law enforcement background. So he feels particular about the term investigator. If you're not a trained investigator, can you call yourself a paranormal investigator? Okay, Neil, I get your argument. But I said, on the flip side, if you're not an academically trained researcher, can you call yourself a researcher? So, in my opinion, sometimes you just have to let things go and let people call themselves what they want to call themselves. Except I draw the line at historian. If you're not an academically trained historian, you are not a historian. So what do you think?
I think if I had to put labels on both of them, I would say a researcher is someone who does more, the book learned research, following up with the people who have come before us as far as the paranormal researchers, or, Ed Lorraine Warren and the history of the topic and more delving deeper into it. I think an investigator would tend to reference somebody more just kind of on the surface that goes around and investigates locations. I think that's
I think that's very, very good explanation. And I would agree with that. Yeah. I would agree with that. So we'll talk more about that topic a little bit later.
Sure.
Because it ties into something else. But
I think it's very, like you said, very interchangeable, though, that when you're referencing it, you don't really think about which one you use at which time. And, the
Right.
people that actually, delve more into it, that, prefer one or the other, would be the ones that would have a better idea, I guess.
Yeah, and sometimes, especially if you're in a smaller group, you have to be both.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're already doing both, which one do you use? Whatever one you want.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever one you want. So Sorry, that was stuck in my head from last night, and I'm like, I wonder what Barnaby thinks.
No, yeah,
So I got started in the paranormal to prove that it was fake, and apparently I screwed up really bad because here I am, and it is not fake.
mhm,
I just came home from my deployment in 2009, late 2009, and I was always a fan of Ghost Hunters. I thought the show was great. It was spooky. I loved the aesthetic, and I came home from my deployment. I still watched it, but after a while, I'm like, some of this stuff seems a little set up.
mhm.
So I got onto a web forum for Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. How long ago this was, where web forums were the main means of communicating with people. And there's just people posting photos and stuff, and I'm just shooting them all down. This is fake. This is the phone app that you used. Here's the little girl spirit. Here's the source image. Remember that phone app? That
Mhm.
phone app was like the bane of paranormal existence back then. People were using it and thinking that we were going to get fooled by it. So finally, some group said, listen, you need to stop crapping all over our stuff. You're going to come out with us on an investigation. And I said, you know what? Fine. My very first investigation, sure, whatever. I went to Scott Mansion in Joliet, Illinois, which here in B. Scott was one of the original patent holders for several strands of barbed wire. An amazing house. It was a mansion. It was a mansion. And let me tell you, I saw my first shadow figure blocking out the light of a doorway. I was touched for the first time. I felt my first cold spot. There were sounds that I originally thought, oh, that's got to be from outside. Oh no, that's coming from inside the room. Like, how do I explain this stuff? So I left that investigation a lot more confused than when I started. So I over the couple months after that, I found this dude on Facebook who was doing a cemetery crawl out in the middle of nowhere in the cornfields. His name's Dan Norvell. It was like February, a couple months later. And I joined up with him and have such a good time. I'm like, hey, you want to hang out afterwards and kind of talk about the paranormal a little bit. And then we worked together for 14 years until this last January when he completely retired from the paranormal. So that's kind of in a nutshell my paranormal journey. I started to disprove it. I got the crap scared out of me, and then I found my paranormal partner for a decade and a half.
So you had a very good experience for your first outing, because I'm sure you realize, when
Uh,
we go to these locations, you can spend all night and have nothing happen. So,
oh yeah, it's weird because for the almost 15 years that I've been doing this, that's only happened to me one time. I've never been to a location where nothing has happened. I've been to locations where it takes them an hour to get started, and you're just like, "Hello, I'm here. Let's play." Okay, well, we'll just wait.
mm,
No, okay, we'll wait. So, I've had slow starts, but I've only had one investigation where it was nothing at all. And that was because of a person we brought with us. Come to
mm,
find out the spirits didn't like them. So they were like, "Yeah, no, we're not playing tonight." We went back a time later, and it was just a lot of spiritual complaints, a lot of "don't bring that person back" kind of stuff. And okay, but Dan and I used to always joke that we can investigate an outhouse and someone will talk to us.
mhm.
Maybe for some reasons, people on the other side just like talking to us. I don't know, but I've been very fortunate to where it hasn't been difficult to get stuff. But at the same time, yeah, it's been slow a time or two.
Do you have any kind of abilities like sensitivities or anything like that that has helped you with this, or is it just kind of luck of the draw there?
So, do you know who Diet is?
I do. Yep.
Okay, so Diet is my BFF. We're best friends forever. And I was filming with her last night, and we could talk about that a little bit later too. So she goes to me, she's like, you've got abilities, right? I'm like, no, no. If you're sensitive, I'm insensitive. I've got nothing. I'm just nothing. Um, So a month or so ago, I had like a spiritual download from the universe.
Hmm.
I like felt like I got struck by lightning in my sleep and had all this information dumped onto me and stuff like that. A lot of it being more foresighty stuff, things that I'm just like, yeah, hey, we need to be doing this. We should do that. You should not do this. That's not your path, and that kind of stuff. So ever since then, um, I know there's a ghost in my house. I call him the stairman because he hangs out in my stairwell, and he likes to stand on the landing because the stair kind of goes up, curves, and then comes back up this way. He stands on that landing, and if you walk through him, you'll black out for a second in the landing. So, if he's on the descending stairs, it gets kind of scary, right? Well, ever since that download, now I can see him. Now I can hear him. Not what he says, just the noises he makes on the stairs. And he listens to me better. Like before, I'd yell at him, be like, "That stop! I can see you on the stairs staring at me. Go back upstairs. I'm sick of this," and he'd just stand there and watch. Now when I tell him to go upstairs, he goes upstairs. So I don't know if I got some kind of a upgrade to something that I didn't have, or just was too stubborn to admit that I had, and now I can't admit that anymore. But at the end of the day, I still think that when you compare myself to Diet, who is a very talented psychic medium, I've got nothing on people like her. So, I'm not going to walk into a location and be like, "This is what I'm feeling." No, I can't do that. I'll be like, "Ooh, did you see that?" "No, I didn't see anything." "Oh, I did." And then that'll be the end of it. So
I wonder if that's a difference in people. Like some people say, well, they saw something out of the corner of their eye, and like you said, well, maybe if you just have a little bit of that intuition or that abilities, that those are the people that are seeing the things out of the corner of their eye that the other people just aren't.
maybe. I honestly, I don't know. And in your YouTube chat, Lee said that I raised my vibration.
Hmm.
Maybe. I'm not smart enough to even begin to comment about that. So I have no clue. I don't
You
know what I
needed
did.
more to Diet.
Right. I mean, I could talk to Diet more about it, and she'd say a lot of things that would go way over my head.
Mhm.
But it's like all I did was go to sleep. I don't know why. All of a sudden, the universe just like, "Hey, you, this is for you now. Thanks."
Interesting.
So, yeah.
So where were you? You said that you didn't believe in the paranormal and stuff going into this, and you wanted to disprove it.
Mhm.
Where were you, and how are you now, like on the psychic mediums and like the stuff that Dayat does? Were you
Sure.
completely against that? When did you start coming around to people like Dayat?
So, in the beginning, like I said, I was disproving it. So now I had experiences that I can't prove anymore. So what's the best way to prove something you can't prove scientifically?
Mm-hmm.
You got to bring in the data. You got to bring in the gadgets, the gizmos, the proof positive ways of communication that you can then repeat to get the same answers over and over and over and over again. Some people in the paranormal and the sciencey side, I split the paranormal into three sides: the science side, the spiritual side, and the entertainment side. Those are the big three. The sciencey side, a lot of people on that side are very confused about what paranormal science should be. A lot of them think that, you need to recreate paranormal experiences in a lab like environment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the paranormal is not a lab science. It's a social science. It's a psychology. It's parapsychology. The only thing you need for a laboratory-esque environment in psychology is an environment that has minimal distractions, so that you can focus on your conversation with your person, living or otherwise. And then you have to repeat the answers to the questions. And there's a couple other criteria that I can't remember off the top of my head because I was up until 4 o'clock last night. Um, but that makes more sense, right? That the paranormal is a social science and not a lab science. So I started initially trying to attack it as a social science with more psychology based opinions, and trying to get the same answers from spirits numerous times over days, months, weeks, years, and etc. And that included the whole not really believing in psychics thing. And then maybe the first year or two into it, I met a very talented psychic medium named Sandy Wells. She lives in Washington State, but on a cell phone call, she could tell you about the room that you're staying in. She could describe the room that you're in right now. And I'm just like, okay, that's weird. What? Hold on. How do you know where I'm at? There'd be investigations with Dan and I where we'd call her to be like, hey, something doesn't feel right in this situation here. What do you think? And from Washington State, she can tell us about the location we're at, the history of the spiritual stuff going on, and who we were interacting with, enough to where we could be like, yeah, that jives with the history. So that kind of started me going, what is going on? That's weird. Eventually towards 2015-ish. So I'd been in the paranormal for about 5 or 6 years now. You know, my drive to disprove the paranormal, long gone. My drive to scientifically prove the paranormal at this point, honestly, was kind of gone. You know, like with everything that I've seen, everything I experienced, what else do I need to do to prove to myself that this stuff actually exists? You know, like, I don't need to convince myself anymore. The people that I talk to, you know, they don't need convincing anymore. They know it exists. So I transitioned away from proving the existence of spirits to starting to tell their stories instead. And when I started to focus more on that, I started working with psychics and mediums more, because they have a unique part of the story that nobody can tell but them. Now you got to be careful, because there are some not so great psychic mediums out there who embellish their abilities. And I've worked with one before, and I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense at all. Where are you getting this from? And it was short-lived. But, you know, the ones that I work with now, I work with Diet a lot, Scotty Rorick, Jay Hill. I'm working with Bree, and I can never remember her last name. Hollingshead? I'm working with Bree on something very soon. She's a very talented medium. You know, I have all these friends, Christina Bloom, Deidre, you know, all these medium friends that I know do a fantastic job, to where, you know, when I want to tell a story about a spirit, I can go to any of them and be like, hey, are you free? Can you help me tell this spirit story? And they're going to do an amazing job. And I found that, you know, I like that part of the paranormal, which really has taken me from, you know, the science side to the entertainment side now. I like telling those stories, especially stories from lesser known locations to where no one else is telling them. You know, let me introduce you to, what's a good example? The principal at Broadhead Manor. Let me introduce you to Mr. Fiskerer. He's been gone for, you know, quite a few decades now. He's very authoritarian. He likes things his way. It is his school, it's his domain. But if you bring an alternative girl in with short hair and a whole bunch of piercings, he's not gonna like that, and he's gonna make her feel sick. And here's a video of Jen almost passing out and smashing her face on an entertainment center. You know, like, these are stories that need to be shared so that other people can look at that and be like, I want to investigate Broadhead Manor and see if Mr. Fisker likes me too. And you know, that's kind of the place that I'm at now in the paranormal, and I really like being here.
Interesting. So you talk about telling their stories, and that was this your first or your second book? I think your second one.
So that's technically, it's the third.
Okay.
Dan and I wrote a book together in 2012 about paranormal theories, and it was self-published. I edited it. I wasn't very good at it. It is not very well done. So we don't really talk about that one. I do want to republish it with a lot of grammar fixes and spelling fixes, but it's still there. It's on Amazon. And the cool thing is, a lot of those theories have been things since 2012 that other larger people in the paranormal have picked up on. You know, so one of my favorite theories in that book, we talk about emotional imprinting, how, you know, there was an investigation we had where a guy got divorced, lost his job, his family kind of disowned him, and all he did was sit in the same bar stool in the same bar at the same time of night, just drinking, 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 drinking. Well, you know, after a year or two, things look up. He gets a new job, you know, he finds somebody else, and he stops drinking, he moves away. Well, at night, at that same time, people can see him on his stool drinking and drinking and drinking, but he's still alive. So we have a spirit of a man that's still living. How is that? It's an emotional imprint. He dumped so much negative emotion from just having a bad run of it that it stuck. What it's attached to, I can't say. My assumption is, you know, maybe the stool or something on that side of the bar that it's attached to. And maybe if you move the stool, he'd move with it, or maybe he'd just sit in open air. I don't know. But that's one of the theories that we covered there, you know, is emotional imprinting. We covered multiversal stuff and all sorts of funky things, but we don't really talk about that book. So the second book was our Ghost of the Black Hawk War book, which is only half of the story. That book is the Illinois side of the battles. We've studied the Black Hawk War for, I think we started in 2013. So by the time that came out, it had been 7 years, I think. Spent many nights, many times at the Battle of Stillman's Run, which is where the war started. The battle kicked off at midnight, and then 9 men died on the hill that is currently the monument site. And it's cool because they're buried there, headstones and all, but it's not a cemetery, it's a park. And that park has no closing hours. So you could stand there right at their graves at 3 o'clock in the morning, and the police will be like, "Hey, did you catch anything?" Like, "No, man, we haven't got much yet." "Okay, cool. Have a good night." They're cool with it. So, you know, that was the second book. We're still working on the Wisconsin side. I have cool stories about that we can talk about later, but you know, that one, the Wisconsin side, when they got into Wisconsin, they were in a full retreat. So, you know, there were a couple skirmishes, and then it ultimately ended with the Battle of Bad Axe, where, you know, 500-ish Native Americans were slaughtered by a gunboat. But trying to recreate that path is really difficult because there's not a lot of documentation on exactly where it was, to the point where we could be like, "Hey, let's investigate this spot because a Native American died here because they were sick and they just fell out of the retreat." You know, there's no information like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the Wisconsin side's going a little slower. And then we have the big book, Afterlife Anthology. This was initially based off of, I think, 3 or 4 of Dan's books, where he self-published them. He wasn't really happy with how they came out, and we wanted to collect all of his stories together into a single book. So a lot of the situations for the different stories relate to our lives, our investigations that we've had, spirits we've interacted with, you know, telling their story but tweaking a lot of information just to make it more fictional. And we brought it all together in this big book, and just people loved it. You know, there's 16 stories, and, you know, there's always one story where someone's like, that's my story. I love that story because of this in my life. You know, Dan is a corrections officer for a county jail. There's a story about a corrections officer in there. And you'll find that corrections officers will read that and they'll be like, "Let me tell you about the jail that I work in and what I experienced." They like that story. My favorite story is the last story in the book. It's called Double Jack. And whenever I read it, I get like a Sin City vibe. You know, like the detective noir, the spookiness. I love that story. For Dan, he's got his own story. You know, even us, we have our own stories. So so technically, yeah, this is the third book, and I really enjoy it. It was my first foray into fiction. Even though Dan did most of the writing, I did all the editing, and contributed to stories, but he was the primary writer on it. That's why it's, instead of by Larry, it's with Larry.
Interesting. That's really cool because, like, if these are, you know, like, the stories based on these people or the spirits that have passed. We're never going to know 100% all the details of their stories, their lives and stuff, but
Mhm.
you're giving the voice to those people that have passed, through mediums or experiences, and just kind of knowing where they were and who they were. So that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And then after this, I just rolled out my newest ebook. It's more a start of a discussion. It's not a very long. I think it's like 35 pages, so it's not very long. It's a very easy single night read, right? Um, my original plan was to just put this out to be like, hey, let's talk about it. What's going on. But I've had such positive feedback, and I actually haven't checked the pre-order stats today. So, oh, I got a couple extra pre-orders. So, pre-orders are climbing in this pre-order phase until the 21st. And, I talked to a couple other people, and I talked to Dave Schrader on his show about it and a couple other podcasts. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into a discussion series where it's several ebooks. They're short, it's something just to get the topic rolling, and talk about things like this in the paranormal community that isn't really talked about.
Mhm.
Like right now, this is social media. You and I are on YouTube, Facebook, uh, wherever else this goes to.
Mhm.
And people are interacting with us through the comments. This is social media. Well, that's great. We're able to connect this way with the two of us, and with the audience and people on archive watching this. Perfect. But there's downsides to the social media aspect, right? You have echo chambers and confirmation bias, and people that are only posting things to get a reaction because they get paid for it.
Mhm.
I'm sure you're in a bunch of them. These paranormal groups where someone posts a photo of just something where you're like, there's no way to know if this is paranormal. This is definitely pareidolia. But you go into the comments and there's 50 people
Mhm.
saying that's definitely a ghost, or I get the impression that that's grandma. And it's like, what are you people doing?
Mhm.
And meanwhile, if you go to that group, that one person posts photos 3, 4, or 5 times a day, and their interaction is so high, all you're doing is just getting them paid by Facebook.
Mhm.
And no one is in there, saying, hey, what's the context of the photo? Um, you know, what was going on around at the time? Who was there? What was the investigation? What were you doing at the time?
Mhm.
Why is the picture so pixelated that you really can't tell what's going on if it was taken by a cell phone?
Mhm.
That's weird. Cell phones are good nowadays. We don't need to post pixelated photos. So, there's things where people come into the photo already having the answer, and that's not good for the paranormal. You can't put a story out where people are like, "Oh, I already know how the story goes." Do you though? Do you know how the story goes? Because I guarantee you don't. You just arrived at the conclusion on the first page. So that's covered quite a bit. Echo chambers, like a lot of those groups are, they're echo chambers of the same stuff over and over and over and over again. Um, and then mental health is covered a little tiny bit about how the paranormal can have an effect on your mental health. Have you ever had an investigation where just some not too great stuff happened,
Mhm.
and you go home and you just kind of sit and you're like, man, what the heck happened tonight? And you're like, I think I need to take tomorrow off and just sit by myself and recollect. That's a mental health aspect. People get anxiety, especially psychics, anxiety issues, or they'll get a psychic hangover or a paranormal hangover where they could feel a little depressed because all their energy is just zapped out of them. The paranormal can do all that.
Mhm.
But when you apply it to social media, how easy is it to look at the latest scandal? What's the big one right now? Cody and Satori, right?
Conjuring House.
Conjuring House. Yeah, that's a big scandal right now. And I'll tell you right now, and I'll be blunt about it. I don't care.
Mhm.
I really don't care. I don't know Cody and Satori. They don't know me. They have no interest in knowing me, I'm sure. So I'm not going to take their side because I don't know them. And the only interaction I've ever had with the Conjuring house was I wanted to set up a filming there for an episode of Expedition Entity, and they quoted me like $3,000 or $4,000. And I'm like, hell no. Because one, there's no guarantee that ghosts are going to interact with me, because that's how it works. You can't force them to interact with you. So I'm going to pay $4,000 to go to a small house, and hope that I get something. But there's no guarantee. Like, not only that, but they also charge more if you plan to produce something. If it's just for an investigation, it's like $800 or $900. But because I was producing something, the cost increased. Hard pass. So I'm on neither side of that whole argument. But there are so many people that are entertained by Cody and Satori that they just jump on their side. And if you read some of the comments, some of these people are mean about it. Just mean about it. And it's like, what is this situation causing your mental health to get this way? Like, why are you allowing that to affect you in that way? Like, that's actually kind of common in the paranormal. People jump into situations where they don't know both sides, and all of a sudden they're like, well, screw that guy. He's a jerk. I've seen his videos. He talks down on people. Really? Do you really think that? Or are you just following the herd that says that because all they care about is supporting the person that is making the comment? Like, these are the kind of things that the paranormal community has to be careful of, especially you and I, right? Let's face it. We're no Dave Schrader. We're no Chris Fleming. We're no Patty Negri. But we have a following, right? Like, people like us. And if we say the wrong thing, people can start to not like us really quickly. And sometimes people in the paranormal that have this following that they've grown forget that. They forget that people look up to them and trust their opinion on things. And all of a sudden you say the wrong thing, and all this growth you've had in the paranormal, helping people, helping spirits, doing readings, doing a podcast, it all just goes right down. Because you commented on something that you really had no business commenting on, because it's social media and it's my page. I'll post whatever I want. Okay, go right ahead, because there's always eyes on you, and the paranormal community is cutthroat. They'll cut you off as quickly as they picked you up. So and that those kind of topics are covered in the ebook, and with the positive feedback that I've gotten, I've already got the idea started for 2 more. Nothing fleshed out yet, because all of a sudden, like writing another ebook just there's not enough time in the day to do it. But yeah, I think I'm going to turn it into a discussion series with short ebooks.
Very interesting. I think a lot of what you said is, it reflects everything, not just the paranormal community, but, just so much of, just you're watching celebrities, and people get so hung up on their personal lives and everything that, like, you think that these people, and that you're part of their lives. And, the same as corporations and stuff, like, look at the certain things that go through and advertising campaigns and stuff that certain companies do. And you think that, the one person is going to make a difference complaining about them, or that company cares if you stop buying their products, when a million other people are still right behind you. So it's the same no matter where you go. But I think social media is just terrible place. Just
right. Well, and what's coming up around the corner? We have a presidential election coming up around the corner.
God, yeah.
And I can't tell you how many people I've had to X out on posts because I really don't care what your political opinion is. I don't care. But, people that have a good following, 2 people, for example, you have Tammy Garmathy. She's a more right-leaning. So, she is in the community, and when she posts more right-leaning things, she gets a negative reaction from the left-leaning side of her fan base, to where people will stop following her because she's posting politics that differ from theirs. And then you have like my friend Robbie Thomas, who's the other side. He's more left leaning. And sometimes the left leaning stuff he posts angers the people on the right that follow him. If you want to grow a following in social media, which we all need in the paranormal, if you're trying to share content and stuff, by posting your politics, you're dividing your fan base. And one side is just going to leave because they don't want to see it, or they disagree with you so fiercely that the respect they had for you yesterday is gone today. And now how do you get that back? You can't. Once the cat's out of the bag, it's out of the bag. So social media can make you, and it can destroy you just as easily.
Yep, absolutely. You gotta stick to your work, your research, what you're promoting as far as your products, and leave any opinions out of it. Because at the end of the day, a lot of our stuff that we do with caps, I'm never gonna say, oh, this place is haunted. Oh, this is an EVP. This is whatever. This is what I captured. Here it is. You look at it and you make your own decision, because I was there. I know what I experienced, and there's no way that I can influence your decision or your opinion on what my evidence was, because you weren't there. You don't know. And the same way with anyone else's personal experiences out there. I wasn't there. I can't tell you that you're crazy or you had this experience or your evidence is any less valid than mine, because I wasn't there. So that's the way, our team and stuff portrays stuff out there, that, here it is. This is what we got. I'm not going to tell you one way or another that, whether this was a Bigfoot evidence or paranormal or what it was. It's just, this is what happened. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. We have some questions here in the comments. I think we're going to head on over to some of those. Well, Lee would like to know when Larry Eissler IV is coming to Earth.
So there was supposed to be one. And my ex-wife decided to change the name at the last minute. So I have a 15-year-old turning 16 who has a different name, but you never know. Maybe one day. I got to find the right person, though. That's what it comes down to.
Lee would also like to know, are you going to be at Broadhead Manor on July 20th?
So I am supposed to be. My son is in travel baseball. So June and July is every single weekend at a tournament. Sometimes it's 30 minutes away. Sometimes it's 3 hours away. So in that particular tournament, I'm 15 minutes away from my house. But because it's a Saturday, we don't know when his baseball games are going to be scheduled. It could be, Saturday at 8 a.m. It could be Saturday at 7 p.m. So I told them that 100% yes, I'm there. Unfortunately, I can't be there for the expo unless I have a morning game, and then I'll just come up early. But otherwise, there should be no reason why we'd have a night game unless rain happens. Rain is usually what causes games to get pushed back. So I'm one of the group leaders for the investigations later that night, and assuming everything goes well and baseball doesn't change my plans, I'll be there for that. But I'm hoping my game Saturday will be early enough to where I can at least go for the end of the expo and just hang out for a little bit.
Absolutely. So, I would like to know what is happening on July 20th, 42.
Oh yeah, really.
Well, this isn't coming up anytime soon, Lee. I don't know. I guess we're going back to that psychic thing of, can you predict where you're going to be on this day?
Maybe Lee's putting an event together.
Ooh. Lee's putting it far in the future. She's got a lot of planning to do, apparently.
Yeah. Well, you never know. Maybe by then some of those celebrities will be, $1,000 a night instead of $2,000 a night.
Absolutely. They get old and desperate for money.
Right. They're no longer on TV anymore. Their fees have to start coming down, otherwise they're not going to get booked.
Absolutely. All right. And Catherine would like to know, everyone has their own personal ring of truth indicator. Hers is when her hair raises on her body. Do you know your personal ring of truth indicator?
Mine is the same. For doing Expedition Entity, I was kind of the one-man band. I did all the production side, including evidence review, simply because if I tried to share that evidence with everybody, it's literally like half a terabyte.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there'd be no way for everyone to download it, and it'd just be too much. So what we ended up doing is the way the show was designed. It's all in third person perspective, right? So the camera set up in a wide, you can see everybody in front of the camera. And then there's a close up camera that was run by Steve Wren. So, you know, if the dowsing rods were crossing or K2 was going off, you know, his camera would focus on that stuff. So in that wide, it allowed us to start sessions already set up. You know, there was no walking to the location in the building. We were already there. And then that allowed me to contain entire investigative sessions in one go. So, you know, in the show, we're at, you know, let's say the Freeport Masonic. We're at the stage area, the auditorium, for 8 minutes. Well, that's how long we investigated for that session. So it was straight through without stop, unless something happened and we had to stop. You know, like somebody coughs or you know, someone's phone went off because they forgot to silent it. Well, we got to cut that part out. But you know, for the most part, you know, without stop, straight through. And then after that 8 to 10 minutes, then we cut and we go on to the next one. So because of that, it makes evidence review easy because I only have to do blocks of 10 minutes at a time. So being there, I know sometimes what to look for, but other times, especially with like the SB7 or EVPs or stuff like that, you know, you don't always catch that. I think honestly, I probably catch 10% of SB7 responses live. And that's probably giving myself too much credit. There are so many that it's like, how did I miss that? That's so clear, but I just wasn't listening for that part of the waveform. So I'll be just like this right now, with my headphones on, listening, and all of a sudden, if I feel the hair on my arms go ping, oh, rewind, something happened there. I got to listen to that again, and that's kind of my indicator of, okay, something really cool just happened and you missed it. You need to go back. There was one. We were at, what was it? It was the Roadhouse in Oregon, Illinois. And we were, I don't know if you've been there, but check it out for sure. They do a haunted dinner tour and they talk about the history of the place. It's really cool. We were at the bar because it's a restaurant, and we were doing an Estes session where Dan was facing the wall. So he's like this close to the wall, nothing but wall. Jen is, you know, 8 feet away from him, facing the opposite direction, and Steve is facing her. So Steve's with his camera there, pointing at her, and you can see Dan in the background of the shot. What Jen would do is she'd take a card and be like, "What's the number on this card?" Ooh, focus. What's the number on this card? She'd never say the card. She'd always try to get the spirits to say the card through Dan. And a lot of the times they did. They would say the number, but sometimes they'd get the number wrong. So, you know, I'm not really paying much attention to the actual cards themselves, right? I'm just listening for the number. But Dan's, and if he doesn't say it, or if he does say it, oh, cool, we'll mark that. He said the number. So after a while, you know, she puts the third card down, and she goes, okay, you know, what's this number? Or no, she has the third card up, and she goes, okay, what's this number? And they don't answer right away. And as she puts the card down, Dan goes, hit. And hit. That doesn't make any sense. But at the same time he said hit, my arm goes, wink. Like, what? That doesn't make. So I listened back to it again. I'm like, is there a voice here? Is there a sound? Nothing. No, there's nothing special here. Well, a minute later, before Jen pulls the next card, Steve, who's behind the camera, I always try to make our camera operators not talk very much. You know, unless you're in front of the camera and I can establish you as talking, you know, we can't say anything. We don't exist. So Steve being in front of the camera, you know, he can talk. So he points to Jen and has her flip the cards over, and the numbers added up to a number to where in blackjack you would hit that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's weird. Okay, that might be coincidental, but that's weird. Huh. Okay. So yeah, sometimes the arm hair thing knows things that I don't. Other times it's like, hey, you missed that. You need to go back. But um and then my favorite is when something super spooky happens and I hear it right away and I pick up on it right away. And my body's just like, whoa, whoa, that was cool. Ping. So yeah, I have the same thing. It doesn't do my whole body. It's mostly just my arms. So I don't know why. I'm not sure.
She says the reason that she asked the question was to validate Dayet's comment about you having abilities, your body's reacting to something.
Yeah, yeah. And this happened while filming and reviewing footage for Expedition Entity, which was long before my universal download.
Hmm.
And that's all I'm gonna say about that. Yeah, I'm sure it validates everything that she's been trying to tell me, and I've been stubbornly ignoring and being like, no, no, I'm not psychic. I'm not anything. I'm just a dude with a camera. But yeah, it probably does. It probably does.
Very interesting. So you've come a long way in
Yeah.
your journey here of trying to disprove everything and being very skeptical in that. And so where do you stand now? Like what besides, we've kind of talked about some of your major instances and stuff, but what do you take of this whole situation, the whole paranormal? You talked about the imprinting and stuff like that,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
what do you think is going on here?
That one, there's a couple theories that I think could ring true. Um, Number one is we all know that energy can't be destroyed; it's converted, right? So we have chemical electrical energy in our body, our brain, our heart, and everything. It has to go somewhere. When we pass away, it doesn't just fizzle out. It doesn't get consumed. It has to go somewhere. It has to do something. So the theory and the thought that I have and that Dan and I have discussed at length is your body is, for lack of a better term, a flesh anchor. It binds you to this existence. It keeps all the energy that comprises you and your soul and whatever else you want to call it in this meat sack. But the moment that our fleshy anchor ceases to exist and the machine breaks down and it can't run anymore, that energy has to go somewhere. And I think no longer being bound to this realm of existence, that energy is able to transcend into a different plane, a different potentially universe that mirrors ours, that coexists alongside of ours. It could be so close to ours that they're literally sandwiched on top of each other with a very tiny gap, and that gap is our three-dimensional recognition of this world, whereas theirs is more fourth dimensional. Um, and I think that there's two of them. I think there's, for lack of a better term, one up and one down, and that's where you get your angelic higher vibrational and your lower vibrational demonic. They're not demons, they're not angels, they're just beings from that different plane. And I think that when we pass, we have the opportunity to go to either. Um, so like if I was a higher vibrational person, a good person who led a good life, was healthy and all this other stuff, it's more likely that I could go to that plane. If I was not a good person and lived life lower vibrationally and stuff like that, I could go to that plane. And then you've got the stuff in between. Um, my thought is that the stuff that's lower vibrational doesn't come back as easily because you have to raise your vibration to get back to our existence, right? So that's why you don't see demons walking the street and everyone's possessed by a demon, or things like Hitler. No one talks to the ghost of Hitler, right? Because you know where he went. But you talk to grandma. Grandma was a sweet old lady. She never did anything to hurt anybody in her life. She went this way. So she's able to then come down to talk with us and then go back up by raising her vibration at will. So I think there's truth to everything. It all ties together in ways that we can't realize because we're stuck seeing it our particular way. You know, heaven and hell, angels and demons, you know, higher vibrational, lower vibrational, all that stuff. It all ties together. It's just we're stuck looking at it a certain way when really it's more expansive than we'll ever know. So that's in a nutshell what I think. And if you need more of an answer, let me know.
That's very good. Awesome. If anybody has any more questions for Larry, get them in the comments now, and we will get to them as we wrap things up here. So make sure you get them in the comments, and we will try and get them in before we go. We have your link tree in the show notes for anybody that would like to catch up with you, and all of your websites and book links and all that are in there. But for anybody that's just out there listening, where can people get a hold of you? Where can they find you? Where can they watch Expedition Entity and all of your other stuff?
Sure. I'm most prevalent on Facebook. I have Instagram, I have TikTok and Twitter, and I don't like Twitter. I like TikTok to just screw around and watch dumb videos and cat videos or stuff like that. TikTok logged me out of my paranormal account and then for some reason got rid of the login information. So now I don't know how to log back into it. So that's kind of stuck right now. But Facebook, I'm all over Facebook. My posts, especially my photo posts, auto post to Instagram. So you know you can see the post there if you're an Instagram person. But I'm very, very, very active on Facebook. I post a lot of memes. So that's the best place to find me and interact with me, follow me, and see what's going on. And then for Expedition Entity is a PARAFLIXX Paranormal Plus original series. So that is the only place you can see it. And PARAFLIXX is a $4.99 a month subscription. However, there's a free 3-day trial. So you can sign up with your email, you get the 3-day trial. You can watch all 3 seasons of Expedition Entity in those 3 days. And then if you choose to watch other things, great. If you decide, yeah, this isn't really for me, then you can cancel. But our big episode that won the Telly Award was at Broadhead Manor for season 3, episode 1. That is in a section on the PARAFLIXX website called the Paranormal Channel. That is a free to watch channel for anyone. No subscription necessary. You can watch it for free. And I made sure that was the episode set up because that's the big episode. That's the one that won us the awards. And people are going to be like, well, what did you do that, you know, determined that you won this award? Well, you can go watch for yourself. Here's the link. It's free to watch. So that's where you can find that. And then my newest thing that I'm working on right now, besides for the 3 documentaries that I'm editing, the 2 books that I'm writing, and all this other stuff, I'm working with Neil Gibbons and Diet on a documentary at the Roth House. You know, do you know what the Roth House is?
Hmm.
How about the Watsika Wonder?
Hmm.
So the Watsika Wonder House is a mid 1800s essentially farmhouse where it is the first documented case of a spiritual possession in the United States. So to nutshell it, a very young 18-ish-year-old girl named Mary Roth suffered from, you know, what we would describe now as epilepsy, but she got into bloodletting and all this really dark stuff towards the end of her life. And she was admitted to a very well-known Chicago insane asylum called Manteno State Hospital, where, if you know anything about Manteno, she was not treated very, very well there. Ultimately, she came home and, from what I've heard, died in the home at just a little over 18. Approximately a decade or so later, another girl in the same town named Larancy Venom started exhibiting the same symptoms that Mary Roth had. And Mary Roth's father, Asa Roth, who was a very devout spiritualist, with the help of another spiritualist doctor, basically convinced the Venom parents to allow Larancy Venom to live with the Roths, because by the time that the spiritualist Roths interacted with Larancy Venom, they found out that Lorancy Venom was possessed by the spirit of Mary Roth. And Mary had taken over Lorancy's body because the angels in heaven had taken Lorancy's soul up to be cleansed. Because she was doing some weird things. Apparently she was tainted somehow. And Mary Roth inhabited Lorancy Venom's body for 100 days until essentially Lorancy's soul was cleansed, and then Mary Roth had to leave again. And from all the research and what I've found out, that Lorancy lived until a very, very old age, had 11 kids, and had a very wonderful life that she probably wouldn't have had she not been the first spiritual possession in the country. So we did the interviews last night. I just posted some behind the scene photos of it, and I have like 5 hours of interview and initial walkthrough with Diet where, she's hitting on things that are in the history of the building, which is kind of wild. I love that kind of stuff. When the psychics picks up on things that I can tie to the story because that's the history. It's great. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna recreate the original seance that Asa Roth did to communicate with his daughter, except we're going to do it with over 200 people. It's going to be, I think, one of the biggest in-person seances that I've ever heard about. But we're going to take all these 250 people and channel all their energy into the center where Diet is going to conduct the seance. And at the same time, it'll be outside the house because it's not a big enough house for 200 people. And at the same time, we're going to have the house being documented for things that happen inside the house before, during, and after the seance. And then after the seance, you're going to be able to investigate the house to see if the seance did anything to the energy inside. Which with 200 plus people, you'd think so. That's a lot of energy. So, and then we're going to make a documentary out of all that. So it's normally when I make documentaries, I tend to keep things on kind of under a tight lid until we get closer to having a product to put out that I can tease. But with this one, because it's tied to the event, I'm trying to get that information out right away so that people can be like, oh, I want to be a part of this. That sounds really cool. Well, come on down October 26th to Watseka, Illinois to the seance at the Roth House put on by Graveside Paranormal. Shameless plug.
What we're here for. Yeah.
So, but yeah, other than that, at the end of this month, I'll be at Gettysburg. I'm at Edinburgh Manor on my birthday in August. That's actually kind of cool. Never been there before. I'm investigating for the first time on my birthday. And then I'm at Michigan Paracon, Chris Fleming's con in October. There's like a dozen of them. I lose track, but there's a lot of things that I'm going to. There's an image on my Facebook that's tagged on my account where you can check and see what you're going to and what I'm going to, and come find me, say hi. We'll take a picture together.
Very cool.
So
where can people get more information on the documentary that you're doing? Where do they have to sign up or anything for that? Or
so there isn't much information yet. We just did the interviews yesterday, and then we have the initial investigation to kind of establish our baseline before the seance. That is coming up soon. And then from there, everything's going to happen on the day of the event, which is October 26th, Watseka, Illinois. If you go to Graveside Paranormal, run by Neil Gibbons, there's all sorts of posts and information about it, where he'll be putting out ticket links soon if he hasn't already. You can see who's going to be there. There's going to be some speakers with, I think I'm one of the speakers. I think I'm doing a Paranormal 101 talk that day on top of filming a documentary. I don't know what I'm thinking. And I think Diet is doing a talk. I believe Diet's doing a talk on mediumship, maybe. And then the owner of the Roth House is giving a historical talk about the building and the spirits there and kind of his journey with the paranormal, really. Because he has his own journey since he's the one that lives in that house and he has to interact with them every day. So So yeah, just look up Graveside Paranormal. They are looking for vendors still. So I don't know if that's something that interests you, Barnaby. But yeah, they're looking for vendors, and I think they're filled up on psychics. Because he wanted a couple psychics to do readings and stuff, but now I think it's just vendors they're looking for. I think so. So yeah, Graveside Paranormal. You can get all the information there.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, it looks like we are all set then. I didn't see any more comments over there or questions, I guess. So that's it, man. So I thank you so much for coming on, and it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to all your stuff coming up. That sounds like a really cool experiment you got with the 250 people. It's going to be insane, and I wish you the best of luck trying to herd cats at that event.
Thank you. I've never participated in a seance, period.
Oh,
So I have to figure out how to film this, and I'm like, I don't. Can we do a trial run seance so I know what's going to happen first? Can I just go to a seance?
I would drone it. I think that'd be cool.
So in some regards, that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be at night. I think
Mm-hmm.
the seance starts at like 7 p.m. in October, so it'll be dark. And there's trees, so I'd have to be very, very careful. But Diet's audio is vital. Like and drones are loud. You'll hear the zzz in all the microphones. So I don't necessarily know if that'd be possible per se. But I'm gonna write it down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write it down now, because that would actually be really, really cool. Especially if we got like some tiki torches to light up the crowd.
Oh. We just did some really cool stuff with tiki torches and
Okay,
filming for
yeah,
our team, so that was really fun. But
let's see, drone and tiki torches. Okay, yep, yeah, that's a great idea. I'm gonna credit that one to Barnaby Jones. If you see tiki torches and a drone in this documentary at some point in the future, whenever it's done, you can always look back on the fact that I got that idea from Barnaby.
I think that'd be really cool looking, actually.
Yeah. Especially, you get the natural flame, the practical lights on people's faces, kind of wicks in and out. Yeah, that'd be cool. And then it's a seance. What's gonna happen to the flame? Is it gonna like focus in towards the center? Is it gonna go crazy? Is it just gonna be boring? Who knows? We'll find out.
We'll all go out.
Oh, that would be bad for the drone, but it'd be cool for the footage. That'd be very cool. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna talk to Neil about that.
There you go. All right, man. Well, best of luck to you and your huge endeavor that you have coming up. So
Thank you. I'm very excited, and I saw one of your commenters, wanted me to return. So maybe once we get closer to that coming to fruition, we'll do a return.
Very cool. Awesome, man. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on. I look forward to seeing your stuff, and encourage everyone to go check out your books. Your ebook is not out yet, you said. It is up for still pre-order?
It is pre-order until the 21st. I wanted to give it a little bit of lead time so people could get it at a discount. So right now it's $3.99, and then after the 21st it's $4.99. So technically it's a 20% discount. It's $1, but it's 20%.
That's what you got to look at. Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. All right. Well, all that stuff is in the show notes for anybody interested. Go check out the link tree there, and you can find everything Larry Eissler there. So thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thank you so much. Great time.
All right, guys, that is our show for this week. Coming up next week, we have Danny Loosemore is going to be joining us. He's going to be talking about tarot and other cards and oracle cards and things of that nature. So that should be a pretty interesting show, because I'm always interested in new stuff, and I don't know too much about that and the history and everything. So going to be an awesome show with Danny coming up. And then, I realized that I never clicked this up. There. That is coming up on Thursday next week. We're going to have Danny on the show. And then on Monday, we have Shitan Noir is going to be joining me on Monsters on the Edge. And she is the regional director for the North American Dogman Project. over in Michigan. So she is going to be talking about that, among other cryptozoology things, and even maybe some paranormal. So who knows? But that's coming up on Monday on the Monsters on the Edge. So that does it for this week here on the Paranormal Spectrum. And until next time, guys, remember, we are all part of the Paranormal Spectrum. I'll see you later. Take care, guys.
You seem to know something I don't. What's going